One of my obsessions is making videos that are as easy to hear and study as possible. So whenever I'm putting out a new course, I try and think of ways that I can up my game a little bit. With the next course that I'm coming out, I am going to massively improve my slowed down clips, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that today. If you're making guitar lessons of any type, you should be including slow motion demonstrations into your lesson videos. Even though your users today can use a simple Chrome plugin to slow down any video that you publish, the quality that they're going to get audio-wise is never going to be as good as what you can get if you pre-slow the clip down and kind of bake it into your video. I'm going to be using a clip from the demonstration of my next course to show you the different methods for improving this slowed down audio. Let's start with scenario one and say that your audio is already done, it's already mixed, you don't have access to the individual tracks. In that case, here is what it would sound like at full speed in Final Cut and at 50% speed. It's hard to beat the convenience of having Final Cut be able to just slow it down and keep the pitch the same and everything like that. But the first problem is that when you get to really fast sequences, the sync between the audio and the video gets screwed up when Final Cut does the slowing down. So the first step that you can do to improve it is to separate the audio and video and to resync them for the slow motion parts. So here's what it sounds like slowed down by itself and then with the audio resynced. Now that doesn't improve the audio any, but it does improve the synchronization between your picking hand, your fretting hand, and the sound that the viewers are hearing as they watch the video. And for really fast sequences, this can mean the difference between them picking up the correct picking and not. All right, second level of improvement. Even though it's handy to use something like Final Cut to slow it down just within your video editing program, it's never going to be as good as what you can get with dedicated software. So the first step up would be to use something like Capo, which is a program for Mac. There are others for Windows, some kind of software that uses an advanced library for slowing down audio. So here's a comparison between the audio that Final Cut slowed down and that same audio slowed down in Capo and then re-imported and synced with the video. Now, if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, you can get access to a program like I use iZotope RX. RX has a fantastic module for slowing down audio, and there's a whole lot of parameters that you can tweak to get different results. And so here is that same clip now slowed down with RX from iZotope compared to what you would get with Final Cut and Capo. Now, the results that you get from using a higher-end program like RX are going to vary based on the program material. In some cases, the results can be drastically different. The next step up requires you to have access to the individual tracks which you use to produce the demonstration. So the next step up would be just remove the music and use the isolated guitar track, which would get you something like this. Then take that isolated guitar track, slow it down with something like RX, resync it with a video, and you would get something that sounds like this. But we can take it even one step further, and we can, if you have access to the original recording session, remove any reverb and apply a separate EQ plugin to trim down some of the highest frequencies. You want to get rid of that sizzle because that sizzle is what suffers the most degradation when you're running it through a slowdown algorithm. So here is the original solo guitar. Here's that same guitar with the reverb and the high end removed. And now here is that processed guitar track run through RX. Now the final level requires you to have a DI or direct recording of the guitar independent of what you recorded from your amp or your modeler. what we're going to do is we're going to take that direct sound and we're going to reamp it with a similar but cleaner sound than what we used in the official demonstration. The reason is that the distortion from the guitar amp, all that high-end sizzle and distortion, makes the slowed down recording harder to hear. And so here's an example of the guitar from the demonstration we've been using, recorded direct. Now here's that same direct guitar reamped with a similar but cleaner profile in the Kemper. And finally, here is that clean sound reamped through the Kemper, then slowed down with RX. Now that's already sounding very good compared to where we started, but we can take it one final step further, and that is to stretch the direct guitar before we reamp it. And if you think about it, the reamped signal is still going to have more harmonics than the direct signal. That's why it sounds better, sounds more like guitar. But those same harmonics that make it sound good are what are going to suffer the most from the time stretching algorithm. So when you stretch the direct guitar signal, it suffers from less artifacts than when you time stretch something that's already been reamped. So again, here's the DI, the direct sound. Here's that direct sound stretched with RX. And finally, here is the direct sound pre-stretched with RX and then reamped using the same profile that I used before in the Kemper. So whether you're just using a separate program to slow down your audio and resync it, or you're going through all these extra steps that I've outlined here, I think it's worth the time to make the slowed down clips easier to study, especially if you have intricate picking details. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, thanks for watching.